Hey everyone, so in this video we'll try to solve a problem or write a program which will solve a problem or perform a task of printing out a calendar for a full month of a given date. So let's just define the problem first. I'll just type it here and explain what exactly we need to output or the program needs to output. And then we'll jump into writing the code for that. So, given a date, output a calendar for a month, including that date. So what this means is, basically we want to have in the output, we want to see something like this: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, let's see, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then, depending on where it starts, we'll have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. So it will end, this one will end with 12. This will be 19, this will be 26, and then depending on what month this is, it might end on 28, or let's actually do more spaces so that we can fit the double-digit numbers. So this was supposed to be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday. Okay, I spent a little more time on this, but okay, so basically if we say, let's assume this is May. Let me actually check the calendar, see which month has the first starting on Wednesday. Okay, so September this year, 2021. So we can say it's September 2021. So since it's September, May, June, July, August, September, so it's 30 days. It will have 29, 30. So this is what we need to output. And how exactly we'll input the date is, since we still don't know about objects and classes, we'll just give it as several integers. So one integer for year, one integer for month. It can be 1 to 12 or 0 to 11, one integer for day of month, so basically date, and one integer for day of week. Now this last one, it's not necessary to calculate all this, knowing all the details of the calendar, but to do it without this, it will be the code will have more complex formulas, or the logic will be more complex, but lesser code, so we don't need that. So we'll accept this as an extra parameter, and then we'll do simpler logic but with more code. So basically this is the problem. This is all our input, and this should be what we print on the screen. Okay, so, and this time we're actually going to write this not just in the text document. We'll use some online editor which will help us to actually test the code after we write it, so that every time I write something in the text document, it's not just made up things, it's real code and it works. So since this is a real programming language now, not the pseudocode we were using so far, so I picked C#, and some of the syntax might not be familiar to you. Some of the things will look a little bit different, but the things that we never touched upon, I'll explain what those means, or I'll say don't care about. These don't matter, basically. I don't care about this for now, but the rest you should pretty much understand what we have, how the code is written, and so on. So let's start. So basically in C# you cannot have functions, and those are called methods in C#. So you cannot have them outside of classes, and we don't know what classes are, but basically ignore this syntax. So this public class program, ignore that for now. So main is a function. We don't know what static means yet. Void means it doesn't return anything. Public also, you have these access modifiers we didn't get to yet. We'll cover them in later videos, but so this is a void function, which means it doesn't return anything, and the name is main, and usually the main function is the entry point to the program. So once you run it, see the output here, it says hello world, and this console write line is basically saying whatever string I provide here, just write to console. And remember, we used to use this output something function in our pseudocode. So assume this write line is a replacement for this function. Okay, so knowing this, let's get back to our problem. So we will use this main as a test area, so we won't touch it for now. We'll write a separate function to output the calendar, right? So let's start with the signature, what we have as input, what we know we need to return. So public, I'll just you can ignore this. Actually, we can even skip this for now. So we'll say, since it's just outputting something on the screen, it doesn't return any value, we can say void, and then let's say print calendar. So as we agreed, we accept int year, int month, int day. So let's assume day is the date, so it's like 23 or 7 or 31st, and then int day of week, and this will be 1 to 7, or we can agree on 0 to 6. So basically in programming languages, all the ranges or arrays or sets, the indices start from 0. The counting, the first element has usually the index 0. That's why people usually pick 0 to n minus 1 instead of 1 to n for things like this. But we'll see. Whatever is more comfortable for us, we'll work with. It doesn't matter. So yeah. Okay, so this is what our function signature looks like. So now we need to understand how to do this. Let's just go back to this text and see what we need to do. So let me fill in the second row. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then 12. We can do, actually why not, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Okay, so let's just consider a sample input, right? So in this case, the year will be 2021, the month would be 9 September, so day of month, let's assume we get input as this 16th, right? So let me somehow highlight this as our input. Yeah, let's just do this. So 16 is the day of month, and then day of week, assuming Monday is 0, so 0, 1, 2, 3. Thursday is 3. or actually let's do from 1 to 7 to make it more natural. So 4 is our day of week, which is Thursday. Okay, so this is our input, right? So let's think about this. So how can we print? So first of all, when we print, we go from top to bottom, right? Top down. So we must print this title line September 2021, and then these headers for columns with the names of the days of week, and then only the date. So which means we cannot just start printing from the day we get, right? So which means in its turn that we need to understand how many rows there will be before we reach this header row, or even this one. Yeah, so we need to understand how many rows, or how many weeks, in other words, we need to skip before getting this to the current day. So to do that, we know basically every week is 7 days, so we can just divide by 7 and take the integer part of that. So if we divide 16 by 7, it means 2 weeks. So there are 2 weeks before this. The only exception is if this is the last, if this is Sunday and it's, let's say, 14 or 21, then you'll get 2 weeks, but before it there will be only 1, right? So imagine if instead of 12 we had 14, so Monday would be the first, and 14 divided by 7 is still 2, but there's only 1 row before it. So which means we should do day minus 1 and then divide it by 7. So that would give us how many weeks or how many rows are there before it. And then we can print it, but still we need all the numbers. So eventually we'll need to know, since we'll start printing from Monday, like the first row, we'll need to know. The important thing is which day of week is the first, right? So that's our biggest problem now, to understand the first day of the month, what day of week it falls on. And to understand that, we need to calculate. So first we know that if we go back, all the dates on this column fall on the same day of week, right? So 2nd, 9th, 16th, 30th are all Thursdays, which means dividing by 7 doesn't change any, like if we subtract 7 from the given date, doesn't change the day of week. And eventually it means if we take the remainder from dividing by 7, we'll get to this 2, and that will give us the closest day to the first, right? So basically let's think about this. So if we do day, let's call this day to make it shorter. So if we do day, and remember this is modulus operator or modulo, or basically this gives you a remainder from integer division. So we say day divided by 7. So what this gives us for 16, this is 2, right? Because 14 and then 2 remainder. Okay, so 2 is basically the first date that falls on the same day of week as the current date. Which means if we subtract 1 from this, so let's call this first same column, right? And then we say, so we need to go how many steps back to understand what day of week this is. So in case of this, we need to go 1. So it will be first same column minus 1 steps. We should go back this many steps. which means if we take day of week and subtract, so day of week is our input, right, which defines which day is that date. So in this case it was 4, which was Thursday. And if we subtract this value, which is 1, right, we'll get Wednesday. So in this case, this is, so day of week is 4 minus, so this value was 2 and minus 1 is 1 basically. So this is 3, which means this is Wednesday. Right, so we know this is how we calculate get to the first. Right, so once we know the first, all we need to do is offset it, so how many days we need to skip, and that's easy. We just subtract the day of week of this new, basically first day of week, right? Actually no, this is always Monday, that's a bad name. Day of week of first. Okay, so then basically if we subtract 1, we'll know how many days we need to skip, because 1 is Monday, right? Wednesday minus Monday is basically 2 days. We need to skip Monday and Tuesday and then start printing from Wednesday. And then, and so on. We need to continue printing. So once we have the first, now our work is basically simpler, right? So we have, all we have now is basically int year, we have int month, and we have int, and we have int day of week, right? We don't need the day anymore because we are always starting with the first of this month, right? So now our function logic should be simpler. So let's try to convert this to some code in this editor here. So apparently, as you saw, we need another function, print calendar. We'll call it the same way, int year. So we get the year, the month, and int day of week. Okay. So this is basically the overloading, right? These are the same function, or the name of the function is the same. So this function is overloaded. We have 2 versions of it, and the number of arguments is different, so there is no ambiguity which one it should call. So print calendar for the month where the first falls on day of week, right? And this one is print calendar for the month where the first falls on, where the day falls on day of week. Okay, so let's translate the logic we just got in this document. I'll just copy this and put it here in comments for now. Okay. Also, let me zoom this in a little bit so that it's more legible. Okay, so here what we need to do, let's just say var first same column. I'm just doing what we discussed and wrote in the text file. So we say day divided by 7, take the remainder. So why is this complaining? Okay, it's not. And then we say var day of week of first. So basically which day of week the first day of the month falls on. We say day of week minus first same column minus 1. Okay. So now we have the day of week of 1st. So all we need to do is now to call the other function, print calendar for the same year, the same month, and instead of passing a day, we just say day of week of 1st. So remember that all the identifiers like variable names, function names in some languages, including C# are case sensitive, which means even a small C1 letter, I missed, this was a small letter here, I put capital here and it doesn't work. Okay, weeks too, so the casing should match. Okay, so this function's job is done, right? That's it, like this function is fully implemented. Now we need to implement this one to make things, to actually output something. And let's come back to this again to discuss how we'll do that. And so basically now we have this input, 3 parameters. We know that day of the first one is on some day, like in this case it's Wednesday. So what we need to do, as we said, right? Let's again just type it here. So we need to skip, like skip count equals. So how we will assign this is day of week -1, right? Because 1 is Monday, basically. That's why we subtract the current day of week, subtract 1 from the current day to get the difference. So for Wednesday it will be 3 minus 1, so 2 items. And then what we need to do is start printing, right? Start printing each row until we hit the end, the final date. So there are a couple nuances here, but initially before that we need to print this September 2021 and then the headers, right? These 2 lines don't change. So we could print this even in the first function. So let's do this. So we can print these first 2 lines here, but then if we do that, this second function doesn't become, like the name print calendar doesn't make sense anymore, because we would just print the contents without the headers, so it would not be complete. So it makes sense to just put the headers also in this function. Otherwise we would need to at least change the name of this function to be something else, like print calendar contents or something like that. And then we'd need extra validations to make sure that the headers match the content. So the best case is basically just print the headers here, right? So we'll use the same function. And so what we need to print here, let's see. I think we had month and the year, right? So month, right, month, September, and the year. So what we can do here is, let's for now month space year. Let's for now do this. We'll see how it's good or why it's bad later. And then in the next line we need to print all these letters for days of week. So we can do that console write line, and we can either do, okay, let's start with this simple way, Monday, Tuesday, or instead of this we'll use this horizontal tab character. This is basically special code or a character literal for a horizontal tab. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, sorry, tab, Saturday, I got confused. Okay, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, tab, Sunday. Okay, so this, for now we can just do this, and then yeah, and now it's up to the, now we need to output the actual days, right, the numbers. So to do that, we need the skip count. So let's do var skip count equals day of week minus 1. So what this skip count gives us, we need the same number of, so skipping basically means outputting a white space instead of a number, and then outputting this tab character, right, horizontal tab after each number, which means we can here do, we can write a loop, because we know we need to do that n times, or skip count times in this case. So 0 to skip count, this will do its skip count times, and then we say console write line. So I'll tell you what's the difference between write and line. So we'll do one space for the number, and then tab. So the difference between write and write line is write line takes basically puts a new line character at the end, which means the next time you write something to console, it will start from the next line. So whereas write doesn't do that new line character, and you're still on the same line. So if you print something more, it will continue on the same line. So we only need to output the new line character when we hit the Sunday's number, right? When we print Sunday's number, then only we need to print the new line, move to the next line, basically. That's why instead of doing write line here, I just do write. So once we have the skips, we need to start outputting the days. So now the problem is to understand how many days we should output in the first line, right? So we skipped whatever number we needed, which means the rest of the, since we know that every single month is basically has at least 3 weeks, right? Even at least 4 weeks. So we know that the rest of the numbers should start with 1 and continue till the end of the row. So we can do that for the first line. We can say 4. So we can say int day of week, or let's say we have the current start day of week. So ideally we shouldn't reuse the input parameter, so I'll take something one. Let's say current day of week, right? Equals, so we'll start with the day of week, and then we'll keep incrementing that day of week. Do this until this is less, while this is less than or equal to Sunday, which is 7, and then just increment it. So basically we're doing this until we hit Sunday. We are saying console write. So what we need to write is the day, right? So day would be, and we always start from first. So let's get the day here. Let's keep it. We can initialize it along with this one, but we can do it also separately. So day equals 1, and we can say day and then tab. Yes, so this will do it, and then we should increment the day to move to the next one. Or we can do this increment again. The same thing we can do, like we can do comma here and day increment here, but doesn't matter, it's the same exact code because this happens every time after the iteration, like the statements in the loop body complete. So we can just leave it here. Okay, so after this, since this is already Sunday, we need to move to the next line, which means we can do console write. And so there are multiple ways. So there is this new line character. We can just write a single character to move to the next line. This will work in most of the cases, but in some platforms or operating systems, this might not be the correct symbol or code for the next line, right? In some cases, instead of one symbol, the new line, moving to a new line includes actually two symbols. It's called, one is new line and one is carriage return. So there are ways to do this in like a cross-platform or platform agnostic way by using some language features instead of hard-coded literals. But for now, this is good. So let's just give it a try, see where we are, see if we have. So basically, if we call this now, we should print the headers and the first line. And let's just give this a try and see if it works. So we'll just, the way we call the function, we just write the name and then the arguments, right? Which are the values for all the parameters that the function takes. So to do that, we just do, so year, let's do the same thing we had. Month is 9. And then day is, let's see which one we passed. So 16, and then it was Thursday. 16, and Thursday is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is 4. Okay. Print calendar, okay. So this should, oh, this is static, okay. So I'll make this static for now, but don't pay attention to this. We'll get to this, what this means, and it's a bit confusing. Okay, now we're good. So let's try to run this, see if unexpected character on line 21. Okay, so this is using an older version of C#. Let's try this. See, that's the bad thing of not reading the warning message. But fortunately we can undo and bring it back. So this should work now. Okay, something is not good. So since it's running infinitely, it means we have something in our loops probably. So some of our loops don't terminate. So I can already see which one. I think, actually no, this one I think is good. So let's see what happened. So we printed, okay, hello world, we need to remove, this was there from the, so instead of September we have 9, that's one issue. And for year, yeah, this is good. And then we have the days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's good. And see, we have it right. We start basically from Wednesday, which is exactly what we needed, right? First is Wednesday, and then, but the problem is we never stopped after, and that's why it took so long, right? It went to, basically it would run infinitely if there were resources enough, which means this second loop for printing the day never returned, because if you see day of week, we never changed that, because the problem here is our current day of week variable is this one. This was the input, which was always Wednesday, and no one changed it. So we need to compare this one, and then we run now. Okay, see? So it finished like in less than a second. It's for 40 milliseconds. So I think we spent too much time on this, so let's just stop here, and in the next video we'll continue. So just to recap, right, we figured out how to calculate the first day of month, how to print the first line. We just need to continue with all the other weeks or lines before we hit the last date, and then we need to update this 9 to be September. And then there will be a couple more nuances, like how we define what's the last day. Is it 30, 31st, 28, 29, and so on. So, but yeah, for now it's good. Let's just stop here. In the next video, we'll continue from here. Thank you. Stay tuned. See you in the next one. Bye.